Welcome back, folks. I'm Artie Decker. This is PSN. We are going to break down this week semifinals, Final Four, if you will. Two in the North, two in the South, and by the end of Friday night, we will have the Super 7 set. This is that process we have been through for the past 14 weeks up until this point, and we will finally, the dust will be cleared, and we will have our matchups. But let's look back to last week. Central Phoenix just snuck by Leah Montgomery. I told you, keep an eye on Leah Montgomery. I felt like they would have a pretty good shot of knocking them off because they, upset Auburn the week before, but come up just a little bit short as Parrish and the Red Devils managed to get by them. Looking on here at the other matchup, it absolutely it lived up to every bit of the expectation we had. It was a battle, but Talia, hits the deep ball there at the end, gets them down close, and Bird finishes it off. And Hoover had the ball with, believe, 40 something seconds to go, but they, threw an interception and ended that drive for them. But I believe it's the best season Thompson's had since 1932 as far as wins go. And, congrats to Coach Freeman and the Warriors for getting to the Super 7. Saraland, Opelika, this, like I say, it was a battle, and I expected it. But I felt like Opelika would sneak out of there, but it turns out that Saraland does the sneaking and gets out of there with the win and punches their ticket. Chalkville, just too much for Oxford, just too much athleticism. Um, Willie Miller is just a beast. I mean, he may not weigh very much, but he is just a killer on the field, and he just killed Oxford as they get ready for their battle with Pinson Valley. And speaking thereof, they just mowed over a not a great Homewood team, but a really good Homewood team, and they just mowed them over. Um, that last matchup there, we knew it'd be back and forth, and it absolutely was. To my understanding, it actually kind of came down to, I believe, a pick six or maybe a fumble return, something on defense, a defensive touchdown nevertheless, as Wetumpka sneaks out of there with a 21-17 win. Um, Looking into 5A, like I told you, I know a lot of people didn't want to hear it because everybody was on the Etowah train. They've been number one prop, for the majority of the year, if not the whole year. But this Vol team, man, they are just very athletic across the board. They have a great coach, and just a little too much for the Blue Devils as they just never really could get a consistent offense going. This was that game that we've been talking about all season long where you knew the defense was going to let down at some point, and it finally did. It gave up 35 to Clay, or excuse me, Central Clay, and it was a night where the Blue Devils needed to match that score to keep it going, and they just couldn't, and so that it was a great year, but it didn't end the way they wanted it to end. Greenville, I don't know. We pick against them every week it seems like, and they just find ways to win, and they knock off a really good Ramsey team. Uh, Definitely did not have that one. Mortimer Jordan just doing what they do and just mowing over teams, and they took care of a really good Jasper team, and that's I believe that's the second time they had played them, and the first time around it was a very close game. I want to say 10-7, somewhere in that ballpark, but it was not close this time around. Mortimer Jordan just takes care of business. Viger is on a tear. Demopolis, very good team, and they just pretty much controlled it from kickoff to the end and dominate in their win. UMS Wright and ACA, great game from what I understand, but it came down, the big difference in it was a pick six that ACA threw, I believe, in the early third quarter. And that was the big change there. But for the most part, they led this whole game. and they actually had a shot at the end. They had a 43-yard field goal as time expired. A little on the controversial side. One referee signaled good, the other signaled no good. The one under the pole that it went over was the no good, so they went with his call, of course. And so, it's no good, and UMS Wright survives and moves on. But uh, a note on that. ACA scores 19. That's the most that UMS Wright's given up all season. And like I say, they had a great year, but it just comes to an end, unfortunately, for them. This next game we picked Hillcrest, but I kind of rode the Andalusia train early in the process of the playoffs, but for some reason went ahead and went with Hillcrest. But it was back and forth. But Andalusia does sneak out of there with the win, and that will set up a rematch with UMS Wright. This Hoax Bluff game, kind of a surprise. They turned the ball over twice in deep in their own territory. That set up two easy touchdowns for Deschler. And to my understanding, all three of their touchdowns were off of turnovers. And also, Darian Meade's, rare fumble inside the 5 could have scored, could have went ahead late, but he fumbles, and Deschler dodges that bullet and manages to get out of there with what I call an upset win in that one. Another upset in my mind. Good Hope was on a tear, really playing well. The big running back, he was just really hard to stop. And but I guess Aniana's defense, man, they've found something. I mean, you shut down Will Bailey and DAR the week before. You shut down this high-powered running attack by Good Hope. Uh, that defense is playing really well right now as they win it in kind of a surprising fashion, 29-8. Flemington, Pike County. It was the game I expected. Just a nasty, knock you in the mouth kind of game. Maybe a 14-10, somewhere in that vicinity. But Flomaton actually comes out with the win in that style of game and knocks off Pikes County. Next game, told you it was going to be back and forth. But I like Gordo to sneak out of there with a win. But they, like I say, kind of that same fashion. Providence manages to make maybe one more play here or there and sneaks out with a 23-20, I would call an upset win. Randolph, we felt like Sachs the second time around would be a little bit different story. A little fresher, maybe a little more prepared. But Randolph didn't look that great against Geraldine. But I guess figured out some of the things they messed up on and tightened those up and managed to bottle up that Sachs offense. That 8 points, they scored that in the fourth quarter. That was really late in the process. So the defense is just playing lights out as they try to chase this state championship. But congrats to them for doing it again against Sachs. I was wrong. But looking on the next game here, I told you this thing would be a dogfight, and it absolutely was. It actually kind of came down to, I believe, a blocked extra point in the third quarter. Uh, Westminster scored. It was 26-20, and they got the extra point block, and then Piedmont went down and scored, and it made their extra point, and that was the difference in the game. But just a fantastic year by Westminster. Hats off to them. By far their best year in school history, and nothing to be ashamed of. But Steve Smith and company move on. Looking into 2A, we had this one wrong. We picked Addison. I felt like the strength of them would be a little too much for Aliceville, and we've tried our best to get Aliceville out of the playoffs. It seems like every week, we borderline picked them to beat Collinsville, and Collinsville come pretty dang close to doing it, but they just come up a little bit short. And then this week, we picked Addison, and they won by 2 touchdowns. I mean, what more can you say? Coach Pete doing a fantastic job with the Yellow Jackets, and definitely got them playing their best ball at this point in the season. And then you're looking at Highland Home and Ayrton. Highland Home is a dangerous team. I don't know if you really checked them out much this year, but they are a really good team that nobody really knows about. And they've had their issues on defense, but in the playoffs, man, they have tightened up those issues and are really playing well. And they take out a spunky little Ayrton team. And then Luverne here, they're playing pretty well also. Uh, Maybe the best they played all season. And they take out Leroy. Leroy, kind of smoke and mirrors to this point, and it finally ran out of, uh, you know, the crap hit the fan basically, and Leroy goes down in defeat. And then you had the big 1 versus 2 matchup. This is a great matchup, great game. It was 7-6. Ohatchee late in the half. They ran the ball for whatever reason instead of running the clock out and going to halftime. And Dominic Thomas fumbles. First time he'd fumbled all season, and manages to give Fife the ball at the 20. There was a controversial call. Call it what you want, but it managed to help out the Red Devils, and they scored on the very last play of the half on a fourth down pass. And it just kind of changed the momentum because then Fife was able to come out in the second half, drive it right down the field, and take that 2-score lead, and Ohatchee just could not overcome it. Even though Allward broke the big run and what have you, just penultimately what it came down to was, when we talked about this matchup, we talked about the fact that Ohatchee is very one dimensional. They couldn't throw the football. And there were so many opportunities. They had guys wide open, but the guys just could not catch the passes in order to make those things happen. So, Fife dodged a lot of bullets and managed to come out of there with a win. And, it is what it is. But a fantastic year by Coach Martin. And, Ohatchee is definitely going to be a team to watch in the future. But looking on the 1A, you got Maplesville taking out Lynette. I mean, this is kind of one of those things where Lynette had basically, you know, we had them penciled in to win 1A. I mean, that was as soon as we found out they were dropping to 1A. And Maplesville says, no, no. We were disappointed by last year. We got knocked out in the third round, kind of a shocker. And they are motivated, and they just dominated for the most part, Lynette in this game and win 29-6. And the Marcel, a lot of people have been, well, maybe they're smoke and mirrors. They haven't played anybody, this, that, and the other. All these impressive numbers, but who have they done it against? That's always been the question all season long. Well, now they play a really good South Lamar team who a lot of people had in Auburn, myself included. And just from what I understand, Lamar made some mistakes, and Marcel was able to capitalize on those mistakes and turn those into scores. And to my understanding, 2 turnovers turned into 2 touchdowns, and that was your margin. So, it was a very even battle, and that was the swinger, so to speak. But looking on the next game, talk about another. And this is actually a typo. This game was actually 13-10 instead of 13-0, from my understanding. And it boiled down to Garden actually led this thing really late in some wet, nasty weather. Both offenses really struggled, but Pickens was able to block a punt and run it in and score, and that was the difference in the game, 13-10. Um, Hats off to Coach Howard and company. A lot of people did not, myself included, did not give him much of a chance to even keep it close with Pickens. So, huge win for Pickens. But I will say this: they're kind of in that Etowah boat. They play great defense, but the offense tends to struggle when they go up against good competition, and that trend continues even this late in the season. Linden and St. Luke, we picked St. Luke to win this thing, and they led it for the majority of time, but Linden managed to get that late score and sneak out of there with a wild 1-point win in this shootout. And we knew it'd be a shootout. Both of these teams like to score. They don't play a whole lot of defense, so it's basically basketball on grass, and Linden manages to get the win and get their rematch with Maple. So after kind of for my standards, a shaky record in the third round, hopefully we'll do better in the fourth round. Looking at Saraland with Wetumpka, great matchup. Two good teams. Could go either way, really. But I would lean just a little bit with Saraland. I like their quarterback. I feel like it could be a deal where it could be close late, and he could lead them down and get the deciding score. So we're going to say it's going to be tight, but I like Saraland to win that ball game and advance. Clay Chalkville Pinson, this is going to be a great battle. It was 33-28 the first time around, to my understanding. I believe week 4, 5, somewhere along those lines. And Pinson manages to get the win and sneak out of there. This time around, though, Willie Miller is playing so well uh, compared to early in the season. He is just red hot, so it would not surprise me at all if they didn't find a way to knock off mighty Pinson Valley. But I, I just can't go against the Nixes. I mean, you got Bo and Pat. I have a feeling they're going to find a way to win it once again and do what they did last year, and that's break Clay Chalkville's heart. We got Viger and Greenville. Greenville is really playing well. Like I say, we try to pick against them, it seems like every week, but they just won't go away. But this week they will go away. Viger is just too much for them. Viger's a really talented team. They have just decimated the last 2 teams they played, which have been great teams, and I think it'll happen once again. Central Clay going into Mormon Jordan. This is another rematch. Basically, it was region title on the line the first time around. They had the weird ending of Clay, or rather, Mortimer Jordan lined up to kick a field goal to win the game. It was blocked. The Clay kids run off the field. They didn't understand the rule of the ball was still alive if it didn't go past the line of scrimmage. The Mormon Jordan picks it up, runs it in, and they just win a crazy game, 32-27. Obviously, the Clay kids are going to know the rule this time around, I would imagine, and they're playing a lot better than they did in. So I'm actually I've kind of been prepared for this matchup, and it's hard for me to pick against Mormon Jordan. They just they find ways to win, and this is one of them kind of games. But I've just got a feeling that maybe this time around, a few adjustments, and Central Clay County may win this football game. So I'm gonna pick Volunteers in a slight upset over Mortimer Jordan. Andalusia going into UMS Wright. This game, I believe, week 3 was 17-0 UMS Wright. Look for them to play lights out after that kind of scare last week. Andalusia just not got enough for them. They may score this time, but it's not going to be enough. I like UMS Wright to go ahead and finish this thing off in the South. And then Aniana Deschler just smoke and mirrors last week, got by Hoax Bluff. I don't think it's going to happen this week. Aniana's red hot, and look for them to win this thing. And I believe, if I looked it up right, Aniana's 9-1 all time in these semifinal games. Look for them to go 10-1 and continue that outstanding record. As they just, it's just crazy to think about the fact that they are as far along as they are. Looking on in the 3A, Providence Christian going into Flomaton. Flomaton knocked off Winfield. They snuck by Pike County. But Providence is just, they're so consistent. And I think offensively maybe a little bit better than Flomaton. Look for them to win this thing and continue this miracle season for them. Randolph County, Piedmont. Somehow we all knew it would come down to this again. Piedmont got them in the regular season, 28-23, if my memory is correct. Also beat them in the regular season last year, but then Randolph County pulled off the miracle finish at the end to knock them off at Field of Champions. Look for them to. I got a feeling we're going to see deja vu. Randolph County's defense playing really well. And Piedmont's offense at times has issues. It's young. This moment could be a little too big for them. Look for Arterial Hester and Coach Pestridge to find a way to go in there again and knock off Piedmont for the second straight year and get back to the title game once again. Luverne going into Highland home. This game was 31-28 first time around, I believe week 6, week 7 in a region title game. And Highland Home won it. This time it's going to be at home. It was at Luverne the first time around. Luverne's playing really well, but I think we're going to see it again. Highland Home's going to be a little too much for them. Highland Home's defense was not playing near as well as they're playing right now. They're playing lights out. So look for them to really bog down Blue Vernon, and maybe not a field goal margin, maybe a little more this time around. And the Flying Squadron punch that ticket. And I believe it'll be 13 in a row, which is also a school record for them. Aliceville going into five. Aliceville, we've tried our best, like I say, to get rid of you. It seems like all this time we've talked about you were the weakest of the region champions, coming out of the weakest region, and we just have bashed you every which way we can. But you're still here, so hats off to you. And then five, a lot of holes in you, but you just find ways to win. I don't know what more you can say about you. Um, winning last week without Anderson, a lot of people did not think they could do that, and it wasn't easy, but they found a way to do so. Don't know his status this week. I'm assuming he'll be ready to go. Maybe not 100%, but I do expect him to play. And Aliceville got a lot of athletes, what have you, speed, not a lot of size, but they're going to need a monster game from McGraw and a monster game from Wilkins. But I just don't see them having what it takes to go into five and get the win. And this will be 31 in a row for five at home if they do take care of business. Looking on to Maples 1 Linden. This time around, it's revenge game. I like the Red Devils. Linden snuck by them the first time. Maybe Maplesville took them a little lightly. They won't take them lightly this time. Look for them to go in there on a mission and take out Linden this time. Pickens County going into Mars Hill. This game sets up perfectly for Mars Hill. It's not. They're hosting. Uh, as we've said, Pickens County's offense struggles. This thing gets into a shootout. I would take Mars Hill all day long. I don't see, even though Pickens County's defense is really good, just asphaltful. I can't see them uh, completely shutting down Mars Hill enough to win the ball game. So I'm going to go with the, I guess, Cinderella, if you will, Mars Hill Panthers to punch their ticket to Auburn. That wraps us up. Um, like I say, we'll be back next week. We'll break down the Super 7, probably be live from Auburn if all things pan out. Y'all have a fantastic week. Enjoy it. And as always, save me a spot on the fence, and God bless, guys.